Hoje temos o privilégio de ter um dos caras maiores do punk mundial desse planeta, dono de uma das bandas mais influentes, um cara que nunca teve parado, que sempre esteve produzindo, um dos gigantes da música mundial, Mr. Mike Muir. Thank you for coming.
Oh,
thank you for your time, for being here with us. Thank you so much.
Very happy to be here. I feel very fortunate to be here, and I honestly say that is because I came from Venice, and like a holiday or vacation for us, getting in the station wagon and going an hour to the beach. You know, we grew up on the beach, we're going to a different beach.
Yeah,
and
just north or south.
Yeah, and as we started doing the band and going other places, I was like, I'm from Venice, you know, I'm from Venice, and that's it. You go to other places and you don't ever see it. You could go to Paris, see the Eiffel Tower, you can see Notre Dame, this and that, but you don't know the place until you know the people.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
Yeah.
So my dad said, you don't go somewhere acting like you belong. You know, like some people in New York, they'll be like, oh, you go there when people accept you. And that is a whole different feeling. And that's one of the things I love about Brazil. I've met a lot of friends from Brazil, obviously, that came to the States from skating or surfing and being there. And then the way people have welcomed me and being in Brazil. Yeah,
in Brazil, we call you're going to do a Planet Hemp presentation tonight. This podcast is going after the show.
Yeah, we are recording
the guys
before the
from
show.
Planet Hemp used to say this word, chegar no sapatinho, just come in slowly and
Easy
see
going,
and easy go and easy come.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. But you talking that I would like to I would like to answer you. I went just one time in Los Angeles, and I went to Venice Beach, and I saw all the beaches in the north.
Yeah.
Santa Monica, Malibu, Venice, Manhattan, blah blah blah, and so and so. Back in '83, you are just beginning the band and the crew. I don't know, your brother and you. And what was the most influential kind of sound that made you make that kind of music in Venice back there?
Yeah. So my brother was a pro skater when skating first started. They were like, Dogtown were the first people that emptied out swimming pools and tried to skate in pools and stuff. And so there was this kind of a transition between the hippies, which Venice was a very hippie kind of that thing, and the younger people. We didn't like the hippies. You know, it was just so slow, and with skating was more energetic, and there wasn't really a kind of a feeling for that. And so then the punk rock, obviously at that time there wasn't punk rock when we were little kids, but when that started coming in, everyone liked the Black Sabbath or you like the heavier songs, and it was funny because with bands they'd always have the older records. The first song would be fast, and then they go "Love You Forever," but they always started with that. And when you go to see them in concert, the fast song you're like this, and then as people started, playing more heavier music, that's kind of a natural to skate to. You know, you get, let's do it,
Energetic.
And whether you were skating down this crazy hill or whatever, and you're like, look, and you go, wow, that looks fucking steep. You listen to music and push yourself and that type of thing. And so for us, like, suicidal used to be like kind of a saying, like, suicidal, go for it, push. And so
just go for it.
So we literally lived in the hood in Venice where the police won't even go. They come in maybe every 3-4 months. All of a sudden the helicopters come, all the police. Yeah, they'd come in there. They had all the wars going on down there, and so we put parties on where we lived, and in the backyard no one would come and stuff. And then they got so big, we started renting out halls. And then people started seeing these people with these hand-drawn shirts, and they're like, who are these guys that aren't wearing leather jackets, and they're not white, and they're doing this?
They're not wearing leather.
And someone said, well, we'll put them on one of these 12-band bills. They obviously can bring people where, 200 or 300 people. were the most, and then we'd come in there and play at the bottom of the bill, and then everyone would leave.
Like 80?
Yeah, early 80s.
85?
This early 80s. And then obviously it caused a lot of problems because with punk rock, people say you need to look this way, you need to dress this way, you need to believe this, you need to do that, and then you're an individual. And we're like, that's an individual, that's like conforming. And we came in and we were different, and people didn't like that. So we had to stand on our own because we couldn't go to the metal shows, couldn't go, you know, or play on the metal shows.
It's kind of dangerous for you guys to
well,
go to
it wasn't so much.
Show,
for a lot of the punk rockers, they had problems. But so when we go to the shows, you'd see all these people and they'd have a group and they go like, okay, here's a couple, because, you know, some of the kids, they're 12 years old, 13 years old. They go up to them and they try to intimidate them. And the little 12, 14, 13 kids, they're from Venice. Fuck you, you know?
Yeah.
And then they'd be fighting.
Very territorial.
And then all of a sudden, you know, a bunch of people come in and we weren't concerned. We always brought it, but it didn't matter how many you have. It's like, it's how much heart you have, and never have fear. And you would go, if there's 10 people and you're gonna get jumped, you just go, you're first, you're fucking second, and you're third. And I'm gonna knock the fuck out of you, and you're gonna be running after you see those guys go down. People are like, what? And then bam, and people aren't used to that. But you had to be that way, you know. We grew up and stuff, and then people realized they couldn't intimidate us, and they didn't like that. So you look at all the old punk fanzines, suicidal, they're destroying the scene.
Yeah, I read a lot of you guys in punk books. Yeah. I read about suicidal, reading the Bad Religion book, and I read the Fat Mike book. Everybody said, we went to some place in Los Angeles, and there was the suicidal guys, not the band, but the suicidal kids, you know. And I read a lot, and it said, they are kind of intimidating kids.
Well, it gets the one where people said, we would destroy the place. It wasn't us destroying it because we were banned. We couldn't play shows. You know, the police would all be there and stuff. So we didn't play in LA for years. So it used to be the punk rockers that would go to the show, and why you'd break a bathroom, I don't know. You know, but it would be the punk rockers do that. People that were going to our shows, they weren't going there to be problems. And so you could have people from East LA, different areas, and for other people, they look and they go, dude, there's 300 of these fuckers, you know, and they think we're all together.
You were all together all the time.
There may be 15 from here, 20 people come from here, and this and that. But it eventually was funny because we would go to like Texas, and we were like a few blocks away in the early 80s, and there's these two white girls, and they were talking, and we overheard them. They're like, and they were scared to go in the show, and we're like, why are you scared? They didn't know who we were, and they said, there's no white people there. They'd never been to a punk rock show where there was no white people.
No more white people in the punk rock show.
And we had Tiny was, he's no longer, rest in peace. He's from Compton, big 6'5", 350-pound black guy. And Tiny said, and Tiny's so funny because he's super tall, but he'd look down to you and he goes, I'll make sure you're okay and stuff. And you'll be my cousins today. And they went to the show. They had a great time and stuff. But I think a lot of times people see differences, and that creates fear. And so
I think kind of ethnic separation. And
I think that's in life too. You see differences, and your first instinct is like, go. Yes. And so, and I think that one of the things that bothers people is when they realize you don't care what they think. And my dad said, the only reason why you need to worry about what someone else thinks is actually there's validity to it.
Yes.
But if someone goes like, you're a fucking asshole, you go, did I do something? I don't. Oh, whoa, I guess I am. But if someone someone says you're a god, it doesn't make you a god. It's how you live your life. Don't be concerned about that. And I was fortunate there wasn't the internet back then. Now people do that. And with my kids, I go, don't worry about what someone's finger says. Yeah.
On the other side.
It's what's in your heart, how you live your life. And those people won't be there later on. And for us, it used to be, there was no social media, but he goes, your friends, things that bother you, 5-10 years from now are not going to make any difference. When you get older, you have kids, it's not going to make any difference. If it's something that you're wrong, admit you're wrong, find a better way. But if it's to fit in, no, don't fit in, stand out. And I think we're taught to be scared to stand out. We're more comfortable to kind of sit there and be behind and have that thing. And I think that's one of the big things. I don't want to get in politics, but that's the problem with politics. There, you go so many places around the world right now with elections, and it's I am this and I am this. And there's this whole big valley of truth that people are scared to go to because they'll deviate from the side that they're supposed to not be able to change from, these sticks that don't break. And it's sad, you know. And even a little bit, I was talking here, some people talking about people,
Brazil,
Brazil,
like
where they're like, oh, how could you talk to that person? And I'm like, why can I not talk to them? You can't talk to them, they're evil. I'm like, what, did they kill babies or what?
It's just in a different side of the spectrum.
And to me, that's the big problem anywhere in the world, is like when people can't talk, when they can't communicate, it's like now people don't want to communicate, they just want confirmation. They're bad. Yeah, they're bad. Yeah. Great conversation. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, what about, you know,
we don't talk about
it. Yeah.
It's not
there's no conversation, right?
Yeah, there's no conversation. And it gets to the point, and like, that's how you learn. It's like, I was always brought up with like, I'm not trying to instigate. It's like, well, what about people get like, oh, and I'm like, I'm not trying to, I don't understand why it's offensive to ask a question. And then it, you know, it's, and using the estates as an example, I don't like any of the people running. It's easy not to like them because they're fucking bad people, as far as I'm concerned.
We back here in South America and Brazil, you know them.
Yeah.
Especially.
But when I sit there and like, I don't know if you saw Biden, I go, dude, this dude is so old. I'll say, and I never liked the guy because of a lot of things that he said. But I'll say that, you can't say that. And I'm like, why? Because then you're for him. And I'm like, how am I for him
for
if
Trump.
if I say something about him? Because I can say, I'll talk shit about someone else, and sometimes I'll, you know, say things and I'll go like, you can't say that. And I'm like, but why can't you say the truth? Why don't we focus on the truth rather than who it is? And it's amazing how people, like, we call it pretzel, they just bend. If something happens, they would rather have, if someone else, quote unquote, the other person is in power, they'd want bad things to happen. They like bad things to happen because the other person's in power. And that's insane kind of philosophy to me. And that means there's something structurally wrong, you know, very wrong. And until people sit there and go, what about the people? You know what I mean? And the majority of the politicians, it's like, I used to joke and people say, I never vote. And I go, why don't you vote? And I go, because I remember being 12 years old and seeing on TV, someone looking in the TV, I'm voting, I'm running because I'm gonna make your life better. I'm doing this for you. And I'm like, how does this fucker know what's better for me, you know? And the pompous arrogance of someone saying that they want power to make my life better.
First the power, then
fuck you, you know what I mean? And then when they get that power, it's like, what are they doing? They don't know who the fuck I am and stuff. And so my dad always told me, and people get mad, but my dad always told me, you have to be in power in your life. Don't ever be in a position where someone else is you're giving that power to someone else that you're gonna regret. You know, be there, whatever it is, no matter how fucked up things are, be the person making the decision. Don't give it to some people. And I think too many people are brought not to be scared, to feel like they're weak, like they can't handle it, that they need someone else to make that decision. They're afraid to. And so it's like the old school thing with my dad, the way I was brought up is like, no matter how fucking tough it is, life is gonna be hard. There's people that unbelievably bad luck, you know, in situations. It's gonna be hard, but it's gonna be a lot harder if you don't believe in yourself. It's gonna be a lot harder, and believing in yourself, you're not like dreaming tomorrow will be a better day, but every day you gotta work and say, you know what, today was fucked up, but tomorrow I got another chance, and I got another chance, and I'm not gonna be fucking beat down, because I look out there and I don't wanna be like a lot of the people when I was younger I saw. I don't want to be like that, you know, so.
In this philosophical speech, your brother is a legend from Z Boys and Dogtown and all the stuff on skate. You are a legend on punk rock, Californian punk rock and skate and all this scene. And for us who grew on skate and punk and hardcore in Brazil, is like sitting with a guy who was on the table of the Last Supper, something like that. I like to know, it's a curiosity. I like to know the genesis of everything. Did you guys have a clue that you were creating history back in time, like when you started?
Let me add a little bit. When did you realize that you were a legend?
If you take it serious.
Because you are.
My dad always said a legend is like, that's the person in the park, they build a statue and the pigeon shit on it. So it's like, do you really want to be that? But I think that a lot of times, and my dad, going back to my dad would say, it's not what you do.
He was an American or a Mexican guy?
He was born in America. So I was the first person born in the same country as my father, and then my kids were born in a different country. So it's one of those ones, it's kind of like a little bit of United Nations where I go around, because I got Islanders, I got all Hawaiians, my cousins are all different places. And where I grew up, literally everybody their parents came from a different country and stuff. So it was, to me, that was a normal thing. And the only time it was, and I'm not into football, but the only time it happened would be the World Cup. Everybody would put their flag out, it'd be over, the team would lose, they'd be quiet. And then it would be back. And we never saw differences. And it's funny because even now, there's a lot of my friends that they'll be like, oh, their mom's from Bliss. And I was like, really? And they're like, couldn't you tell? And we never cared. I never cared. You know what I mean? It didn't make a difference, and it's weird to me how people are. My sons played soccer. Where they played, a lot of them, it was Oxnard, there's another in Ventura. And they're all basically from Mexico and Central America. And their coach is talking in Spanish. Now my son's team, there's 11, 12 players. 9 of them are Hispanic, half Hispanic. But you look at their dads, they're wearing, shorts, they're wearing the, surf clothes or whatever kind of thing. They're talking in Spanish and they're going, you can't lose to people like that. And you realize it's like, they're like, wait a second, what's the difference? And it's because of that cultural thing, but it isn't a cultural thing. And it's amazing how we reinforce these us against them thing. And I would sit there and I was kind of like, I was going to say something, you know what I mean? And I was like, I'm from the fucking hood, brother. But it's amazing how we create differences. That's how the world doesn't work. And a lot of people don't want the world to work by creating differences. And then they want to create these things where you feel like you have to have a community. And a lot of these communities are just weights to hold you down, And I just, it's scary to me. But with going back to the skateboarding, there wasn't cameras back then. You didn't do things to post it or the reaction. And one of the things that I think with skateboarding going years later and changing, I would see someone do something when you have the film and then they look and they go, no, let's do it from a different angle. And I was like, dude, that was gnarly. But it was more the angle. Now, one of the things I do like is when someone's doing it, they're showing them like, boom, falling, and finally doing it. And to me, that's one of the things I think about good punk rock and with skateboarding. My brother was a pro, wanted to be just like him, got on a skateboard, just amazing. Fuck! Fall down and it hurts. And I told the story many times, but I went to my brother, I go, what's the secret? And he goes, the secret is when you fall down, get your ass back up. And you realize the times when it really hurts, you go, I don't want to get out. And you go, I got to get back up. And that's literally and figuratively in life. And so my brother ended up in the Skateboard Hall of Fame. 6 or 7 years ago, Suicidal Tendencies got into the Skateboard Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I'm not a good skater. I wished I could be a good skater.
I was never a good skater.
Yeah, I was the
Me neither.
I was the little brother that, you know, when everyone wants to see the little brother, oh, he must be good. And I felt like everybody was watching me. And I talked about, you know, not being able to speak Portuguese. I felt like everybody was watching me, and it stopped being fun because I felt like everybody was expecting me. And when you're young, that's the way you feel. It's not the case. No one cared. But like, I couldn't do what other people did. And so, but I love skating, and we'd go to all the contests. I remember the first time there was a contest and someone was skating to Suicidal, and I'm like, whoa, you know, Lance Mountain drew an artwork for Suicidal. To me, I was like, whoa. And so the reason why I say that, I go, I never was gonna be a pro skater. Love skating, but if you do what you love and you do it for the right reason, somehow we ended up in the Skateboard Hall of Fame, and you will end up where it is. And my dad always said, life is like a tree. You know, you want to climb it, you want to go to the top, but sometimes when you're on a branch, you're like, oh, look at that over there, you know? And you have to, you know, look at it that way and stuff. And you can't be so rigid, but when you do the right things for the right reasons, people will see it. People will appreciate it, and people will, you know, you're going to end up in a place that you want to be, not because other people said that's great. So I think one of the things is following my brother. I go different places, and when people tell stories about it, I'm so proud, you know, of him, because I know he did it because he was living his life. And when back then, you know, they used to have skateboarding, it's not a crime, you know. Same thing with Suicidal. When we started off, the police would arrest you for wearing suicidal, you know, stuff. And, you know, everybody's going to try to stop you, you know, but the only person that should be able to stop you is yourself. And you should stop yourself when you're doing the wrong thing, you know, and learn those lessons. But I think you just, in life, you just have to sit there and not worry. And it's, like I said, it's much harder nowadays because it's people post things and, oh wow, I only got this many likes. Phew. You know, I got to do something else. It's like my dad said, is when you lay your head on the pillow at nighttime, you know, you think about what you like and what you don't like about yourself, what you need to change, and that's the most important thing, because those invisible fingers that acknowledge you don't matter when you have kids, or when you're, you know, rent's due, or all these different situations when you have struggles, you know, and that type of thing.
Well, you said police would arrest people just for wearing Suicidal Tendencies clothes, and you said about violence in LA, in Venice at the time. You guys were forbidden to play in LA for a few years.
We were banned from LA.
Yeah. What happened then? And tell us a little bit about the story.
And why.
Well, and why, right?
There's all the stories, people getting killed at shows. And it's funny because my dad said the story. He goes, you know, you ever go to a party on a weekend and you're there, and you get there on Monday and someone says, dude, did you hear what happened? And they tell a story, you know it's not true. It's very exaggerated. And then you kind of tell a story. Yeah, and then, you know, people add to the story.
You think that mass media back in California at that time was quite big racist, and that's why you got banned?
I think it was more people saying, oh dude, don't go there, people got killed, this and that. And people used to do interviews, and I say, if people were killed at our shows, you can find it in the newspaper, show me where it I go, we can't play, so how did someone get killed at our show that we couldn't even do? And literally, when we did the first time we played in Southern California, it was in the University of Irvine. There's a basketball arena, and it was the Brent Center, University of Irvine, and the promoter there was Gary Tovar from Golden Voice, and there's a lot of stories about him. He was drug laundering and stuff, and but he was from,
it's very public.
But he was Hispanic. He would talk like, Mike, man, I don't know what it is, Holmes. He goes, I love Suicidal, but I mention your name and people get mad. They hate you and stuff. So they did this show at the Brent Center. It's the University of California, so it's state property. It isn't city, so the local police couldn't go there. So when you were coming into the campus, all the police around trying to do this and stuff, but inside it's state police. And it was a brilliant move, and he did it on a Sunday night. It was a brilliant move because if it was a place where the police could be, there would have been a riot for a lot of reasons. One, they probably would have grabbed somebody, started hitting someone's going to throw some bomb, this and that, and it would have created riots, which used to happen in the old punk rock days. And by not having the police there, it was actually avoided all that. And so after that, then we were able to play the Santa Monica Civic, it's where we grew up, which was a very important thing for us and stuff. So the fear of the unknown is always huge. Then you couple at the time, there was a lot of violence and stuff going around in society. They had the riots, all the different things. We looked more like those people. So, you get put into all that same category and stuff. But I think one of the things is you have to realize, like, you can't change for everybody. To be accepted, again, it's the pretzel, because when I say you, I don't mean you, but this person, that person, what is acceptable, you're always gonna be, okay, I gotta go like this, okay, I gotta do this.
Change everybody every time.
And you can't. And ultimately, you have to be in a position where I think it scares people when they realize no matter what they say, it's not gonna bother you, and that really bothers people, when the power of words don't bother you. And that scares them more than I'll fucking kill you. You know what I mean? It scares them when they realize there's nothing they can say that's gonna scare you, And that's the thing with the police. It's like, even with my sons, there's some of the people when the whole George Floyd thing and all that was going down, and they're like, oh, the police and this and that, they're like you and you don't know because you're old. I'm like, I've had my nose broken by the police a couple of times. My ribs broken by the police,
Couple of times.
I've been beat, handcuffed behind my back, let's say, I've been thrown in jail back then, and they just hold you in there and stuff. And so, no, I do know. There wasn't cameras then. There's cameras now. I feel a lot better now.
Yeah. In front of
police. And the other thing, one time my dad, when I got arrested, I was trying to call my dad to bail me out. And he goes, well, what you in for?
To calm the family, it's the big issue.
Yeah. What you in for? I'm like, Dad, I didn't do nothing, man. They just messing with me. They're always just messing with me. And he goes, well, maybe you didn't do something this time, but I'm sure there's something else you did that you got away with. And I was like, nothing I could say and stuff. And he goes, why do you always have a problem? I go, Dad, the police are always fucking with me. They're always fucking with me. I go, you're not fucking with them? I go, no, I just don't like being fucked by them, Yes. And he goes, well, if you're always having a problem with the police, maybe you should be where they're not. Don't be where they're at.
Smart advice.
I can't, because they're just always everywhere I'm at. And they go,
always behind you guys.
Maybe you should be in different places. And it was like, I was like, man, it didn't make any sense. And then I realized, I go, no, actually it does make sense. Don't put yourself in a position to prove that you're, not scared or whatever. I go, a lot of the battles they have is actually, I'm the one that's gonna end up suffering. They're fucking assholes. I already know they're fucking assholes, most of them, not to stereotype, not to do the same thing. But the way that I present myself, especially when I was younger, they're gonna want to try to prove that they have more power. They're scared. I like one of the times shouldn't say it, but I was like 17, and they were arresting one of my friends, and I would say, hey, you want me to call your brother and stuff? And they're like, how old are you? And so you don't say, 18. I'm 19. And they go, you look like you could be 17. And I said, and there used to be a commercial, a vitamin commercial. That's because I eat Geritol. I eat healthy, take Geritol twice a day and this and that. So I was like, boy,
yeah.
And the guy goes, I got a good idea
They become very angry with the jokes.
He goes, I'll take off this badge, go around the corner and beat your ass. I said, you can leave the badge on, take your gun off, let's go around the corner, I'll beat your fucking ass. And so, blam, handcuffed, I'm in the police car, driving, this and that. I'm like, hey, we're going the opposite, this is Hollywood, we're going the opposite way of the Pacific Station. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? I'm like, something must be happening. And then it's like going this, and we're going down this alley, and I go, fuck, what's going on? There's 8 police cars. Shit, I'm on a ride along. What's going on? I'm like,
and that's scary.
totally oblivious, thinking there was some like robbery, some shooting, some murder, and this and that, and they're going over there, and then they parked. They get out of here. The dude coming over, another cop, and goes, "Is he the one?" And then all of a sudden, I was like, "Oh fuck, this is not going to be good." And they said, came out, got me out. He said, "We're in the alley."
Mic from my please.
Sorry. Got me out. They said, "We're in the alley. Give me your best shot." And I'm like, "Oh fuck," handcuffed. And then it was just blam. And they didn't take me.
Beaten?
Yeah. They didn't take me to the station that night. Then they handcuffed me. I'm blood all my face and stuff. But
let's talk about music.
Yeah.
I'm coming.
You're tired of the love stories? So that's the thing, though. When people talk about it, I was not only born ugly, I had some help. Nose broken 9 times, yeah. So.
And you're here to release a single on a tour with Brazilian guys. I learned that before the pandemic, you travel a lot around Brazil. How's your relation with Brazil? What attracts you in the country? What do you think of us?
Yeah, it's interesting because when you're not from someplace, people will say like, "Oh, this reminds me," or they'll talk about, going to Venice and that type of situation. I think one of the biggest ones was the first time when I went to Santos and went with some of the Charlie Brown Jr. guys and that type of thing, and stayed there for a while. And it's the story about different people kind of like recognize you. What are you doing here? And that. But you see the kind of people say, "Oh, the way they kind of started was kind of similar to Venice." And people always do that, but you don't. And then you realize like, "Oh, I see that." And you start seeing people, as I said, as people, and how you grew up, and going like, "Okay, this is someone I would be friends with," And so there's the two kind of friends you have when you're young. They're the ones because you live by them. And so your friends, you get a little older and you're like, "I don't like them." And there's the ones you've kept over the years, and because you see what the type of person they are. Yeah. And you could realize there's those two types of people. The people I would have grown up, they would have been my friends, but probably would not be my friends. And then these are people that I would be friends with, that you can just tell that you can what's inside and trust them, and being able to have.
Was one of those guys.
I definitely. It's interesting because when I met him way back, his English wasn't very good, and I have no Portuguese, and I didn't really know who he was. Didn't have any kind of understanding. I had no understanding how much influence it would kind of have in my life later on and stuff, to the degree even being here. I don't think I'd be here if it wasn't for him. And you see, as more people tell you like, "Hey, you things," and I'm like, "Really? I didn't know that." And you start learning things, and then you meeting the people and the stories, the good and the bad stories, and you kind of get vested in it, and you're like, and then you realize how much people mean to other people and why they do, and you start seeing all these things. It's a whole different world, literally, and you cannot not feel a part of it. And people here like just been incredibly honest, good or bad, honest, but for the right reasons, not like, "Oh, Mike, you're so pretty. Oh, you look great in that dress." It's like they tell you the story, kind of thing. And so being here and coming back on my own is like the other joke I always say, that people were talking to other people and going, "What's he doing here? Has he got a girlfriend here? I'm always seeing him here," And someone had said, it came to me and said, "Mike, you are the first person that I see in Brazil all the time, and it's not because of a girl." And I think that actually helped, because people realize where I'm coming from, and that you want to be here. And before COVID happened, we did the Infectious Grooves, with Robert. I was like, "Robert, I want to play in Brazil," And then next month we did the skate park opening in December, and we had all kinds of things that we had planned on doing, not just music, that one of the things that was very important to me is be like, I'm not just here because of music, because of life. And there are some things that we wanted to try to do that would be completely different, that made no sense musically, but it was, just, I go, this would be something I think will mean a lot. And then COVID happened and everything got shut down, and it got shut down to a degree that I don't think anybody at the time knew what was going on, and would have probably had a more difficult time if they knew what was going to happen. And so for us going forward, it's kind of like, wow, how do you get back going and everything when you don't know what's happening
after the COVID?
Yeah. And there's a lot of people trying to on the music thing, rushing out to try to go on tour, and I'm like, why? Because you missed out on these other shows and it's like your job, and it was a really difficult time for a lot of people, especially people that had kids, with schooling and all those, depending on the ages, and so many problems. And so when we got the opportunity to do the call about the Sao Paulo show here, it was like, we're coming from Europe. I flew straight here from Europe. That was the time I was supposed to be off, and then we going to Denver. So we're going here, flying straight from here to Denver to do festivals, and then going back to Eastern Europe. But to do like the show in Sao Paulo, like to be able to do the free show, that type of thing, that's the kind of shit that if it was in LA, I'd be like, yeah, let's go. And then to be able to play more cities, it's like, okay, let's fit in all the cities we can. And
have you been to all that cities that you're going to play?
Yeah. And then the only sad thing is Porto Alegre.
Porto Alegre, yes.
Because now I know people, and some of my friends have family there, and in the States and in Europe, they don't really show what happened with the floods and everything, because it's there's all the other stuff. It's a third
world problem.
Yeah, it's not important. No one really cares. They want to have stuff that someone's gonna click, as we call it, clickbait or whatever. And I got like, people were sending me pictures besides what's on the news. I'm just like, this is insane. And the amount of people that lost their houses, just seeing the airport and all those things.
They got no more airport until today.
Yeah, and so with Alex and so many people wrote, please don't cancel the show, please don't cancel the show. And I was like, is there any way we can do it? And they talked to the promoter, and they're like, there's no way
to do it.
There's absolutely no way. And I was like, can we do like free? Is there any? They're like, there's no way. And so with that, like, we're hoping that we'll be able to do like something in Sao Paulo, do a free show, come back later and do that, because you have to have empathy in life. But when you know people, then you sit there, like a lot of the world you don't see, but when you see something like that, and then someone goes, oh, my cousins live there and stuff, and blah, 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 it's a terrible feeling. And so, yeah, that's the only sad thing about these being here,
So you are releasing a song here in Brazil,
and like thanks for the invitation.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
I was going to ask about this invitation. I was going to ask how this invitation happened.
So I have to say this. I'm a person that I can say no. Someone will say, oh, Mike, we got this great thing. You want? Nope. And my dad always said, in life, you'll never be successful till you learn how to say no. And
all the time.
Well, not all the time, but learn how to say no. And I was like, no. He goes, anyone can say no, but until people know that you mean no, it doesn't matter. And when you're like, I see one little kid like, hey, let's go do this. No, it's like it's a different that's kind not of a no. Yeah. And when my dad would say, used to say it, someone would say, hey, Gene, let's no. Oh, but you should have. And he goes, nope. And my dad goes, look, it's not going to happen. You want to fight about it? We can fight about it. I don't want to fight about it. It's not because I can't fight. I can fight. I got better things to do. But the answer is no. If that's not good enough for you, I could try to explain it a little better. But at a certain point, you're not going to change my mind. I know why I'm saying no. And that's the answer. And you'd be like, okay. And I think that's the case. And I don't know, in Brazil, they have the cartoons. And in the States, they have the cartoon. And they have the devil and the angel.
Yeah.
And if you notice, in the angel side, don't do that. It's not good. What? You fucking scared? Blah, blah, blah. And my dad said, it's backwards. The angel is the one who's going, what is wrong with you? why would you fucking do that to yourself? Why would you do that to the people that care? And it's the devil should be, okay, you know what I mean? Fuck you, you know what I mean? And I think that's where we're taught in so many ways to be weak, you know? And that goes to the no thing. And so the purpose why I bring that up is I hate to ask anybody because I don't want them to have to say no. And to me, it's like in the perfect world, I wish I could sing it in Portuguese because I would want people to know that it's like coming from my heart, but from my voice, they would not understand what I'm saying. And some people would be like, why would you do that? And then to be in a situation where actually it's realistic to have people that would understand why I'm doing it and would try to do it, I go, okay. And we're talking with Alex and then to get people all together at the same time to change their schedules, to do all of that, which is logistically is very difficult, is very humbling. And it's like, wow. And so like when I talk to my kids, it's funny because now a lot of it's my kids and stuff. When they hear the song, they're like, Dad, how do you do that? How'd that happen? And to me, that's the best example to how the world, when it's the best, is small, you know? And to be able to be there, I go, do the right things for the right reasons. And hopefully you'll find those people that fit in, you know, perfectly and stuff. And so I never would have thought musically I'd even be here, you know, back then. But to be able to do something like that where it's, you know, if you're huge, you can do it. We're Suicidal, not huge, but to be in a situation that
you're huge here.
Well, we're maybe in
you can say you're not,
but the people that did it, it's like a lot of times you can get like a lot of people or whatever, rap people, whatever, but to the people that I believe that were doing it for the right reason, that's the really important thing, you know, where people like, okay. And I think obviously with the, you know, the We Are Family and stuff, it's to bring that point. You can see all the differences in the world, but when your heart is in the same place, that's what the family is. My dad said, you're born into one family, you pick a family. And to be able to pick a great family and be around people that you trust, that you don't have to sit there and leave and go like, where did which one of you did it, you know, kind of thing. And to be, it's funny, but it's true, you know, where you trust people and you just go like, these are people that you don't have to, you can sit there in a room, talk for 3 hours, leave, and you got a smile on your face and you didn't realize until you see a mirror and you're like, I was smiling, oh wow, I didn't even know.
Yeah, just like when you said the friends that you make through your life. You choose these friends.
Yeah, and you, it's amazing how limited you're brought up to be. And I was always brought up, don't trust anybody that isn't from where you're from. And that was a hard process for me to change. But I'm very fortunate that I have. Like I said, just even being here is kind of very surreal, you know. Tonight, it's like, how would something like that happen? You know, it's like surreal, you know. Saturday night, it's all surreal, and like I appreciate every one of those moments and stuff. And I think that fortunately there's a lot of people that appreciate that too. And so I feel great because, like I said, I put myself, I'd be going on Saturday, you know what I mean? Okay. And I want to do things that when I was young, when I was 16 or whatever, I go, this is where I want to be, you know, and would appreciate. So that's kind of what Suicidal is about.
And you have three kids.
Four
kids.
Three boys and a daughter.
Oh, okay. And you mentioned your father a lot. It's hard to picture you as a family guy. Like, you always talking about your kids, your father. Is that a side that we don't see from you? Is because you're always on tour. You said that you are traveling from Europe to South America and back to Denver, I think. Yeah. And then to Europe again. How's your routine? How do you deal with this family guy and rock star?
Well, one of the things is I actually love my family and I miss them. I'm always on FaceTime and it's hard. That's difficult. And but my oldest son just turned 20, and the last year he's been our tour manager. So he's
your
here.
tour manager?
Yeah. So he's here in Brazil. My two younger sons are 13 and 14. And so we have some Brazilian friends, and they go to America, and they love them and their kids, and they're like, oh, and they're so funny at that age. We need to go to Brazil next time because we have to see Zion and Lorenzo. They're our
Zion
friend,
and Lorenzo.
yeah. Our friend Junior, their kids, Gabby and stuff, because they haven't seen us in a while, and we need to have pictures with them. They need to remember us. They'll forget us, and it's like that's their logic to go to Brazil, but. It's to me, it's like amazing where they sit there and they go, and they'll always be, how did you become friends with them? And I'll tell them like, but how did you become friends? And I go, because I could tell what kind of person they were, and I was fortunate to meet them and stuff. And so on one side, we just they were actually born in Australia. And we did an Infectious Groove tour, and that's the first time they've been back to Australia since they were born. And they went on the tour, so it's Robert Trujillo, there's Jay, and they just had the best time. And when they were a little younger, they kind of do and no one get mad at me, the transition from soccer and hip hop to now skating and heavier music.
No problem.
Yeah. So they retired from soccer.
I stopped to play football in Brazil at 11 years old to become a skater.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's okay.
So they're that, and it's funny. The funny story I used to say is when people used to wear suicidal stuff at school, you got to take that off, get sent to the principal, turn the shirt around. Now sometimes it's the kids reporting other kids for wearing it. Oh, that's offensive. That's and they'll go to the principal office, and they're like, "Yeah, what song did you like?" In the principal's but my kids, they're two different schools. And I'm like going, oh, wow, they're going to school, first day of school, and they got Suicidal on. And I'm like, I'm going to get a phone call. And I'm just like, how do I handle this one as a parent, the whole thing.
They can use bandanas back in school.
No,
they can't.
No, they can't. But they'll have like the Dickie, the Suicidal, shirts. And then it's like,
it is still forbidden to use bandanas back in.
Yeah. No, you can't do that. But they'll wear the shirts, and then my son will be like, yeah, I was wearing the shirt, and I'm going, okay, here it comes. And my this guy came up and he said, hey, where'd you get that? And they're like, oh, I got it from a friend. And they're like, this and that. And then they'll be the one in class. My son's taking class, and they'll do the last name, and they're like, are you related to anyone? And there's John Muir, who was explored all this stuff in America, and there's all these things named after, and then there's this and this. So they're like going, oh, I don't know what to say, and blah, blah, blah. But so you go by my kids' school, and there'll be a little pack of like 10 of them. They got the Suicidal on, and they went to our show, and then they're like, when's your dad's playing again and stuff? And so they're starting to ask about music and that type of thing. And so it's for me, it's great because I never pushed them in that direction, but they kind of like it, they see it, and then they see the difference too, because music can be the best thing in the world, and it can be the worst thing, And my dad always said, don't use music as an excuse to get away from your life, use it to try to make your life better, And I didn't really understand what he meant by that. Like, okay, but he meant better by take the opportunities you have, enjoy the opportunities, appreciate what you have and stuff. Make sure, that you're doing things for the right reason, and the old don't forget to say no. And it was interesting going back to that. Years ago, someone was saying something. I'm like, man, people would love to do that. I don't understand why you're saying that. I go, I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't say no to all those other things. And it's just one of those ones where you want to be. And so it's in a sense, as like I said, I feel very fortunate. I feel very fortunate that my kids understand when I'm not there, what I'm doing. They want to be there, and then to be going back to what I was saying with Infectious, to be around like someone like Robert Trujillo. That's and arguably one of the biggest, if not biggest, hard rock bands, and the nicest guy. And then they'll be at other festivals and they'll see people from a band maybe they've heard, and they're like, what's wrong with that person? They're just mad and just, this type of thing. And so they're able to see people and they're like, man, Robert's fucking cool. They don't say fucking because it'd be a problem, but they're like, man, Robert is so cool. He's not like you would think. A lot of people would think like if you can, and people come, Robert, that you would be a different person. He's the most humblest, nice person. And I love them to be around those people. And that's why anybody that's at my house, it's like there's very few people. It's like, talk about Junior and Gabby and their kids from Brazil. Mm-hmm. They come to my house because I know what kind of people they are. And they see them and they don't see them as Brazilians. They're from Brazil, but they go, these are good people. They like them. And so it doesn't matter where you're from. It's where your heart's from and where you're going. Mm-hmm. And that, again, the thing is, I've been able to meet so many people because I met people that have grown up with people that they kept friends and they lost their friends, and the friends that they've lost, they're not around. And so when like Alex or whoever I'm with introduces me someone, I know they're a good person. It's like, we call it vouching. It's kind of, I know they're a good person because if you were in Venice and I was there, I wouldn't introduce you to a lot of people. And my kids realized that I went very young, and I didn't even know I was doing it when my son that's 20 now, when he was 5, he used to come up to me and go, Daddy goes, Dada, are they your friend or they just know you? And if I said, oh, that's my friend, if they had kids, they'd play with them. He'd get in the conversation. And then one time I realized, I go, he sees me, it's like I'm vouching. If I say, oh, they just know, then he goes, okay, then it's fine, and that type of situation. But when like I introduce them to people and that, they know that I'm saying they're a good person, and that they can be trusted. And so it doesn't matter, they don't care. It's like our family, they don't care if the accent, where they're from, this and that. They may ask, oh, what did you, oh, you, how do you know him, blah, blah, blah. But they go, that's a good person. And I think that's one of the things, the best thing about music is to have the opportunity to meet some amazing people that I know, like if we had a barbecue and it wasn't the geographical difference, it'd be like, come here and it'd be the best time ever,
And to have the kids around, sometimes you even hire your friend's sons, like Ty Trujillo, right?
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, he got hired for the best reason. I say this, and I've been saying a lot. In 10 years, he's going to be a legend. He will be an absolute legend. And
that's very perceptible. We see that.
Yeah, and like Thundercat. Thundercat was 16 when he started playing with us.
Thundercat from Compton.
Yeah, and he was 16 when he started playing with Suicidal and Infectious, and he's got all his Grammys. He did all the Kendrick Lamar songs and all that. He's done like everything, completely different. But Josh Freese, who's in Foo Fighters now, played with everybody. He was 17 when he started playing with Infectious Grooves. When he left, we got Brooks Wackerman, who's an Avenged Sevenfold. Yeah, he was
religion too.
Yeah, he was 14 when he started playing with us, and then Suicidal and stuff. It goes on and on. It's not the age. I was 16 when I started. Yeah, it was like they were gnarly. The Brooks story, they rehearsed. He was in this other band called Bad for Good. It was like a little kid band that was put together by a label, but they rehearsed where we did, and it got to the studio. And people were like, dude, isn't that kid gnarly? And I'm like, what are you talking about? The drummer in there. And I'm like, haven't you heard him? I go, I just got here. And they're like, oh, you got to check him out. Go into the other room, get in a glass of water. Dude, what about that drummer? And I'm like, I'm there for 5 minutes. There's like 7 people. Like, can you believe that kid? He's amazing. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm not. They really want me to go in this room. And I started hearing this drumming. And this is 1992, 93, and dude's mixing it up, and I'm like, that wasn't happening before. This is where all the metal bands and the pop metal bands played, and and I'm like, who can it be? And I'm trying to figure out who it is by the way they're playing. I'm like, so finally the doors open, and I'm stubborn, but I'm trying to. There's this little kid, and I'm like, there's no fucking way that was that kid, it was that good. But he was just amazing drummer, and there was nobody better. And there's a lot of people that we have the ability, everyone has the ability, the older to get, to think they're better than they are. But like a lot of times with kids, they don't, and they just get in there and they want to be better. There's a difference between wanting to be better and working and thinking you're better than you are, because when you think you're better than you are, you don't put in the work. And so Ty is the same thing. He's so humble. And it was the best story is the first show he had to fill in for our bass player because he had to get a visa, and he was 14 at the time. And the very first song, he went on the drum riser, jumped off. I'm running across the stage. I see like I'm not gonna be able to stop. You know, here's 210 pounds against little 14-year-old. Ty went flying. Robert and Chloe, his mom, are right there on the side of the stage. I'm like, do I apologize to his parents? Do I help Ty up? The show's fucking over. His head's probably split up with blood. And I'm like, just froze. And then he jumped up and started playing. I'm like, okay, I think it's okay. And then afterwards I was talking, but he just incredible. And I think people will see that. So it's not his age, it's not because he's Robert's son or whatever. He's going to be an absolute legend. He's just got something that's
many
completely
legends
different.
inside of Suicidal.
Yeah.
Dave Lombardo, Rocky George, and
Dave Lombardo. Yeah, we are running out of time. Who wants to make the last question? Because
you know all the bands you're playing with back here in Brazil, because I love the bands like Bayside Kings.
They were here.
It's a very close
They were here
mine.
in this podcast.
Yeah, we
here.
had them, and in Scrota, a girl band, and you were very influential. And I was trying to figure some bands here like DFC, Bandanos, Possuídos pelo Cão. They began in the same structure, and you know them. Have you listened?
Yeah,
to them?
you know the funny thing is because. And this goes back to my Portuguese. I knew Ratos de Porão.
Ratos de Porão. João Gordo.
And people would talk about, you know this band? I've never heard them, because when you say it in Portuguese and they're silent, I'm like, and but my son, I got like this shirt, and it's interesting because I got the shirt from him and had it back, and my son's like, who's this? And so then he ended up going on Spotify and this and that.
Yeah.
And so he's like asking me about like, and all the people like that are on the song, oh, what are they? What's the band names and stuff? And so he's like listening to bands that he never would have, especially as American, he wouldn't have known and stuff. And so it's funny how it kind of brings it together, makes Dad a little bit cooler, which is nice. But yeah, in the same sense, if I hadn't spent time here, if I hadn't listened to what a lot of people were saying, I think a lot of times people hear, but they don't listen. It goes in their ears, and you're just like, oh, this is another country, this another country, this another country. And everywhere you go, people usually say, oh, I love this country, I'm so happy to be here. Then they go to the next country, and behind it's like, oh, and the best thing to say is to honestly be able to say, dude, I love being here. I love the fact that I'll go somewhere, I don't know someone, and they'll come up and with sincerity, oh, Mike, it's great, I'm glad you're here about this and that. And it's like, I believe that, I feel that, and it's special and stuff. And then to be able to meet people that I never would have because of music and stuff, it's incredible. And like I said, that song to me is something that's like, just the people that would do that, something to get together, change their schedule, to be a part of it, to want to, and the whole meaning is like, that's just incredible, and people say, how did that happen? I'm like, I don't know, kind of in a simple way, because when I listened to it and the idea of getting so many people and then making it fit and sound like it isn't just I'm throwing somebody on to throw somebody on, you hear that there's a certain honesty to it that I listen to, and I go, if I was 16 years old, I'd go like, I like this, and so that's just, it's a great feeling. Yeah.
Mr. Mike Muir, thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
We could write a book with this interview.
So many questions to ask, but we got not enough time, and you don't want to occupy your time the whole morning with an interview. Thanks
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for all the music you make.
Thanks for your legacy and all
your art. Thank you very much.
And your advices here today, because I'm gonna use them with my son.
So your son's gonna hate me. Stop listening to that fucking psycho man.
No way. That's it?
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you so much.
Obrigado.
Muir.
Thank you so much.
Pode fechar.
Obrigado. Vamos fechar em português. Espero que vocês tenham a legenda, quem não entende inglês. Esse aqui é um programa pra gente histórico. E é isso. Algum recado de redes?
Acho que só terminar, né? Lembrando isso que você falou. Se você quiser escutar esse programa com legenda, o Terra no YouTube, do Terra também, você vai conseguir encontrar ele lá. Então, segue a gente nas redes e, mais uma vez, obrigado. Isso foi ridiculamente lindo. Suicidal!
Thank you.
Thank you.